on my mind.
Somebody in a parachute has just landed on the edge of the ring. Holyfield bit by a dirty Mike Tyson.
Hello and welcome to episode 51 of The Boxing Show with me, your host, Rob Tebbett. As always, I'd like to remind everybody to please like, comment and subscribe. Turn your notifications on for more boxing content. Now that's out of the way, I'm joined by the usual twosome of Mr. Barry Jones and Mr. Andy Clark as we review an action-packed weekend in the sport of boxing. So chaps, that was an interesting weekend.
Yeah, got that wrong again, didn't we?
Yeah. Somebody tweeted me yesterday and said, "Oh, is this your review show after an hour and a half of you all telling us that you had no chance at the weekend?"
But then you just go with logic, don't you? I think you just go with what you see in front of you. And by the way, no, I don't think I certainly never. I don't know about you two. No one said that Ryan Garcia couldn't fight. I'd never said once that he couldn't fight. I never. But he had no place to beat. Everything pointed towards Devin Haney controlling it, and after the round one, it looked like he was controlling it for a while. But power and speed can get you out of trouble. That's what happened.
It certainly did. And
the right winner, like for me, anyway.
Yeah, we'll come on to that. Well, I just realised we dived in with 2 feet. I think everybody's very excited, and it's still early on a Monday morning for us. Yeah, Andy, how was your weekend? Of course, spectacular event over in New York on Saturday night.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like an absolutely wild night to be at. You know, the kind of night you would love to be at. A big upset. You get that kind of adrenaline and electricity and sense of anticipation whilst it's going on that is hard to rival. So it would have been a great one to have been at ringside for, to be present for, definitely. And an upset is always a good thing. Yeah. You know, we joke about it on here, but it is always a good thing. It breathes, you know, a fresh impetus into a sport when something that people haven't predicted will happen does happen. I do have an issue with it because of the weight. I think what happened with the weight is problematic. He put in a big performance, Garcia. He really, really did. And it will mean an awful lot to him. But I have a problem with it because as far as I can see from the comments he made post-weigh-in, where he basically said, make 140, I want to come in strong. He missed the weight, and he knew he was going to miss the weight, and most likely he would have known well in advance of the weigh-in that he was going to miss the weight, and I'm not talking hours, days, maybe a few weeks. Didn't say anything until the day of the weigh-in, didn't lose those extra 3 pounds, and therefore took an unfair advantage into the ring. And it matters. It matters. People miss weight in boxing, not all the time, but relatively often. But it depends how you do it. If you try as hard as you can to make it and you just can't do it, and we've all seen fighters on the day of a weigh-in where you know they've really, really tried, and they get to within a pound, they can't make it, they don't take that extra 2 hours to try and do it because they just can't do it. There's that, and then there's what it would appear that Garcia has done, which is agree to fight at 140 and then realise, as I say, probably a reasonable amount of time in advance of the weigh-in, that he's not going to be able to make 140 and just miss it and proceed anyway. It's for me that is problematic because it does give you an unfair advantage. And I put it out on Twitter over the weekend, and you know you get lots of replies, and a lot of the replies I've had have been people saying, "Well, you know, they both rehydrate to this weight. What does it really matter?" If you don't understand why it matters that you lose that extra 3 pounds compared to someone who doesn't, particularly if you're both going to rehydrate to a high weight, if you don't understand that, then I'm afraid we can't help you, can we? Really?
And those last few pounds are the worst.
Last
pound, whatever that's the hardest part. That's the bit that kills you. That's the bit that makes you weak in round 8, round 7.
It's a difficult one because people will talk about how Haney's always kind of got as low as he can on the day before and then rehydrated to vastly above the actual championship weight, and how he's weight bullied people that way. And he has done that, if you want to use that phrase. But he's always made the weight. So he's never done what Garcia did. Like, I've had a lot of replies of people saying, "Oh, the weight bully got bullied this time. He did the same." But it's not the same, because he did make the weight. It is a valid argument that, well, he didn't have to take the fight. Okay, in theory, he didn't have to take the fight. But if you get told the day before, then the chances of you pulling out, and yeah, I think he did absolutely think he was still going to win. Maybe he was lulled into a false sense of security by Garcia's behaviour in the build-up to the fight. Who knows how much of that was mind games? I don't believe all of it was. But when you find out the day before, the chances of you pulling out of an event like that they're not big, are they? And my point with that anyway would be that they knew well before the weigh-in that was what was going to happen on Garcia's side. And if you're interested in fairness, and I know it's professional sport and people could call me naive and whatever they like, but most athletes I speak to, they are interested in that. They do want it to be a level playing field. They don't want hollow victories. They could have told him whenever they knew and then said, we're going to need to do a catch weight. And then he would have been able to weigh in at 143 as well, which I'm sure would have made things a lot easier for him. So...
And by the way, it might have had no relevance on the result. It might not have.
Yeah.
But we never know.
But we'll never know.
It is a tricky subject, isn't it? It is. And all that putting on weight after a fight. If you're a big guy and you come down in weight, then you take the chance of draining yourself and making yourself lethargic. Putting on loads of weight after is not always a good thing, by the way, because you will be slower. Because you put on weight too quick. So, it doesn't always help you, but it might help you come fight night. But that's the risk you take, where other people live around the weight, and they could go a weight lower. Cal Frost was a prime example.
Yeah, exactly.
Live around 160.
Yeah. I'm
170, box at 168.
I'm not a big fan of the way that Haney has chosen to do it. I think I don't know how much longevity there is in it, but it does require an enormous amount of discipline, particularly with those final few pounds.
Well, if you get it right though, if you rehydrate right, then on the night you are 2 weights bigger than your guy, so then you can become dominant, which he has done. So he takes that, but it's a risk of getting it wrong.
But it is a risk.
But then if the guy don't make the weight, he don't make the weight. Again, it might not add no relevance on the result, but maybe it did, because he got caught with a shot really early, and maybe maybe that resistance wasn't there for him, and the other one was nice and sharp. But yeah, I think it's an issue, and I'm not wanting to make the weight, because you think it's that arrogance now where fighters are getting paid so much money, or they've become so big a stars that the weight's irrelevant. He doesn't need a world title, Garcia. I'll win that on my next fight. I need to win this fight because this is where the money is. And if I beat him, then my next fight is bigger money again.
Yeah, and that's that speaks to the real problem, isn't it? That if you agree to do something, then you've agreed to do it. And if you're just then gonna just not do it, where does that leave us? I wish Haney had just said, no, I'm not doing this, and actually pulled out. That would have been amazing, and that would have laid down a real marker for the sport, basically, because I know this is not the first time in history that this has happened, but like I say, there's just a big difference between doing everything you can to make it and realising, whether it's age or whatever it is, you can't do it anymore. And it may well be the case that he cannot do it anymore. That's what he said after the fight. And I've no reason to disbelieve Garcia on that. But if that's the case, and he may well have believed when he signed for the fight that he could still do it, but I mean, there was
a point there.
Would you not agree that experience your experience would tell you that there would have been a point during camp, or reasonably far out from the weigh-in, not the day of the weigh-in certainly, where they would have known that they couldn't and therefore weren't going to make 140?
Yeah, I think so. And certainly the few weeks before, you're definitely thinking, I'm not going to get that. And then you make the choice then. You're going to either really try and sacrifice, or you're going to go and just going to train strong. Because who's going to put up the fight? Because when you're the A side, which he was financially, then you go, are they really going to put up the fight for the money we're all going to get? It's going to happen. But yeah, but Even with that, added with that, the weight, I still thought Haney was going to beat him, and quite comfortably. By the way, I can't go back on what I thought. I didn't believe in all the shit around it, but the way Garcia was behaving, I didn't believe it. I mean, I didn't care about it. I didn't factor that into my decision on my prediction. I thought even if he's in a perfect sound mind and all the rest of it, it's just wasted energy for me if he's just playing the game. But he can't beat Haney anyway, because Haney's just too clever, too disciplined. The jab's better, too good for him to get past. And they said he was wrong. It was a massive upset. All these people saying, "No, I told you so." What an upset that was. Well, you just can't contradict yourself saying, "What an upset that was. I told you." You know, if you think it's an upset, you've gone on blind faith, haven't you? Who you think's going to win? I'm sort of backtracking, you know. He pulled off a massive upset, and he was good, and he has been good. But I just thought that technically Haney just was too disciplined, and the jab would just control everything. And there was times in the fight where it was, but ultimately that's speed and power, and he has real power, and he got that power where you don't have to be. Some people can hit you hard, but you have to be at the end of the shot. So they got to get you long, or they got to get, or like a compact fight, they got to be rolling into the shot and coming forward into the shot. He can hurt you close, long, going forward, coming back, because you got that speed, and you got that natural twitch of his hips and shoulders. He can hurt you anywhere.
He would have had to have made the WBC have the weight management program. It was, of course, the WBC title fight up until it wasn't. So he would have had to have made the weight. They have a 2-week check, they have a 30-day check, and then obviously they do the fight week. So certainly as far as I'm aware, he made whatever checkpoints he needed to. But of course, you know, he missed the weight and then it didn't happen. One of the things, Andy, that Eddie Hearn said, just sticking with the weight, is that there was no rehydration afterwards. When I saw that he missed the weight, somebody had said to me, you know, what do you think will happen? I said, I think he'll pay a fine, and I think there'll be a rehydration limit that he's not able to go above and beyond the following day. Eddie Hearn said not having that was a mistake. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, you would have to say that. But this is a problem, and this is where it gets all really complicated. Having to kind of factor things like that in. And people kind of referenced as well the situation with Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia where they did have that rehydration, didn't they? They did put the clause in for rehydration, I think, in that fight. But it's just, like I say, you know, you're signed to fight at weight, and your primary obligation as a professional is to make that weight. And if you can't do it, then you can't do it. But I just have a very hard time believing that they didn't know that he couldn't do it well enough in advance to be able to go to Team Haney and say, we can't do it, we need to reset the weight, rather than just have him find out the day before. And as I say, people can say, wow, that's naive, it's professional sport, blah, 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 all of that. But at the same time, one of the cornerstones of sport is that it's a level playing field. It's an imperfect system with weights in boxing because of, as we just outlined, the way that people can rehydrate, the way that people choose to do it. But the best we can do is that when you agree to fight at a certain weight, you make that weight the day before, if you can do it safely. Now, if you can't do it safely, then you will discover that. And I'm repeating myself now, but they could have said to Haney, we can't do 140, let's do 143. Then you've got, as best we can, you've got a level playing field. And a level playing field is one of the cornerstones of sport, as far as I'm concerned. And people need to give a shit about it. It's as simple as that.
Moving away from the weight, Barry, you just said there that you didn't believe, or you didn't buy into kind of Ryan Garcia's pre-fight shenanigans, antics, as Devin Haney alluded to it. He was photographed in a bar, I think on Tuesday of fight week, behind the desk with a DJ at the wee hours of the morning in New York. Kind of one of the things to discuss really before we actually talk about the actual boxing match. Is kind of people's perceptions around Ryan Garcia, really. Sort of save what I think till afterwards, I suppose. Do you think it was a big ruse? Do you think it was just a way of trying to kind of pull the wool over people's eyes?
No, I think he's an oddball. I think I don't really care what he does outside of his outside life. He can do what he wants. But I mean, I think he's a little bit weird, but I do think it was a bit of both. I don't think he overreacted like Mayweather used to do. We talked about this in the last pod, didn't we? I think Mayweather did the thing where he was always out drinking not drinking. He was eating burgers at 4 o'clock in the morning and out partying, but he was out running, and he was training harder than any other fighter around at his time. So he lived the life, but he sold himself. He became a pay-per-view star, not on his performances, on his persona outside of the ring. And I think Ryan Garcia is doing the same sort of stuff. I just thought it was wasted energy because I thought he needed all that energy to concentrate on the fight. Because this was a fight I thought where he was going to get found out or come unstuck. But he got it right, and I don't think it would affect Devin Haney either. I think a lot of those I think if you're going to be, I can't understand how any fighter, certainly a fighter at the highest level, you react to stuff. So if someone says something to you on the day, you're going to react. If a fighter pushes you, push him back. If he says something about your mother, your wife, or your kids, you'll react. But the way he's acting, you're not going to go, and I'm not training so hard because he's not training so hard. Or if you see him run up mountains with fighting grizzly bears or whatever it is, you're not going to go, I better go and do that because he's training harder than me. You focus on yourself. You just go, listen, you believe in yourself. So I don't think once you get to any level, really, you can't, what they say or do shouldn't have an effect on you. If they do, you're in the wrong fucking sport. Because you can't lose your bottle because Mike Tyson stares at you. You know you're fighting Mike Tyson. This is not Mike Tyson, of course. But this is for you, Jake Paul. You know you're fighting him. You know you're fighting. You know who you're fighting. So you just gotta, you can't be intimidated away and go, oh shit, actually, he looks scary. Because you know what he looks like. You just prepare yourself. And the whole thing. And the same for this fight. I don't say, Ryan Garcia acting like an idiot and going out drinking, even if he was doing that, would have affected Devin Haney. He would have been, he might have gone, well, if he didn't train, I'm definitely going to batter him. But it wouldn't have been like, this is going to be an easy night for me. If he believed that, he's still going to perform his best he's going to perform anyway. So for me, it just seems a lot of wasted energy. But it's to sell the fight. That wasn't for Devin Haney and his camp. That was for us to talk about. That was for the public to go, he's mad or he's brilliant if you're younger. And for the rest of us to go, what a fucking idiot. Like he's going to get, it's a fight, he's an underdog anyway. If he's not training, he's going to get hurt. So I was never 100% sold on it. But I do think it was a little bit of both. I do think he does what he wants to do. He's a young man with loads of money. So he's going to do what he wants to do. But I do think ultimately he looked in good shape. I think he did train hard. He was semi-disciplined. He made a good, comfortable weight for himself. And he came in. I thought he boxed really well, to be fair. And so I think he got it right. And he sold himself and he sold the fight. He sold the fight. Devin Haney didn't sell the fight. Though some of the clips of Devin Haney off the back of what Ryan Garcia was doing was funnier than what Ryan Garcia was doing. Some of the little clips he's going, Ryan Garcia's not taking this fight seriously. No, I know he's not. He's doing somersaults on top of your head. Of course he's not. But yeah, so that's not for me. All that shit. It's just so I ignore it. But I do understand. For a pay-per-view, you have to go beyond just being a fighter with loads of respect for the other guy and saying, may the best man win. It goes beyond that. You have to, the fight has to be good, but you have to sell it. And I think he knows how to sell. Andy,
your thoughts on kind of the pre-fight build-up, which obviously came to something of a crescendo at the weigh-in where he drank a beer, quote unquote.
Yeah, I don't believe that was a beer.
No, you could actually. When you was watching it, I was watching it on the Zone YouTube channel or something. You can see him talking to Ariel Helwani before he goes on, and he says something to him, and says, then afterwards he says, it was apple juice and soda water. I think he said, or apple juice and sparkling water. But anyway, the pre-fight antics from Ryan Garcia, all a big ruse, or do we have to kind of put it into the conversation for just a part of his win, I guess, in a sense of, he did all of that stuff. I mean, where are you kind of on all of it?
It's difficult. I mean, it's impossible to actually know, isn't it? But at the same time, I think some of it was, or it was overblown. Looking back on it now, it was exaggerated, a lot of it possibly, but I don't think that all of it was. I think that actually is kind of who he is. And we talked about fighters before, Teofimo Lopez being our go-to kind of, about fighters who do seem to kind of revel in some chaos. They seem comfortable there. Garcia, by the look of it, is one of those people. And maybe this is the way that he'll choose to do it from now on. If Haney did to any degree fall for it, nobody will in the future. So it'll depend how much profitability Garcia feels there is in it, because he's clearly a clever guy when it comes to selling a fight, when it comes to the marketability side of it. I think you have to make that assumption rather than just he's completely off the wall and it just so happens that his antics are what people like and they put bums on seats and get people to tune in. I think he's a lot cleverer than that. So maybe we'll see this from him again. Maybe we won't. I think it'll probably depend on the situation. So looking back at it with hindsight, it is kind of fascinating to try and work out what was actually going on there. But he is really, really good at selling a fight. Really, really good. And, you know, all of the other stuff we talked about with regard to the weight and all of that, which I'm aware I introduced it, whether you wanted me to talk about it or not. But most people won't know or care about any of that. The audience that he's really trying to appeal to, that all sports, all kind of smaller, more week-to-week niche sports are trying to get, which is that big casual sporting audience, they won't know about that and they won't care about that. They'll just look at Garcia and just think, this guy's fun and he can really fight. And he can. And it was a huge win for him over the weekend. I'm not trying to take anything away from that. It was a very, very meaningful win for him over the course of the weekend, and it takes his career forward a huge step. How meaningful it is in terms of the sport and where it places him and how good is he, it's much more difficult to extract meaning from it in that sense, because we had a welterweight against a super lightweight. But you know, let's not.
We had a super middleweight against a middleweight, really. Like, if you think about it, like, I agree with everything you said about making championship weight, but also Devin Haney would have been 165.
Oh yeah, of course.
And again, that doesn't mean that 1 point can run.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that Devin Haney weight on the night was 142, but you know, they were both miles above 140. But I thought Garcia was probably bigger.
He was bigger. He looked bigger. You do have to look at. I mean. Far from me to always sort of queue up to agree with Eddie Hearn, but he said what he said after the fight about, you know, not putting a rehydration in there. I know that can be in its own way, you know, attracts a lot of stigma with kind of limiting somebody's rehydration, but also it goes both ways. If you're not going to make the weight,
if you do that as a result of them not doing what they agreed to do, then it's fair enough.
Again, sort of like two wrongs don't necessarily always make a right.
Yeah, you've had your career not having it and being the bigger guy. No, you might not be the bigger guy.
Yeah,
it's. Yeah, you just I don't like rehydration. If you're 13 stone when you get in the ring against and you're a featherweight, that's you. You made the weight though. You just made the weight. Where do we stop? Otherwise, why have the weigh in the day before? Have the weigh in like on the day. If you're making guys, if a guy's struggling to make the weight and then he can only put on half a stone or £10, whatever it is, which most people go, that's crazy, but it's all water. That's why you put it on so quickly. Then he has to make the weight again. So that's no good for your body. He's still in a dangerous position. Might as well have him weigh in on the day, because ultimately then you'll get people closer to their natural weights. Closer. You always get this crazy guy who takes that risk. But the whole thing about the weighing the day before is the dehydration issue with the fluid in your brain, and then obviously get easier to get brain damage or brain injury. So like you weigh in the day before so you can rehydrate. But if you have to check your weight, you can't properly rehydrate. I don't see that, and it makes it fair. I understand people going, but then you got a featherweight going up against a welterweight or a middleweight. I don't know how you even it out. Then you make the guy who's naturally bigger. Then he's in a dangerous position because he'd have to watch his weight on the day, and you haven't had to. You could just because you only put on £10. It's the risk you take in making the weight, but then making weight affects you. It affects your stamina, your timing, everything. It affects you. Punch resistance, which maybe saw. Well, Ryan Garcia can punch, who knows? Yeah. But he didn't look like he had the best resistance, Devin Haney, though he could loads of bottle. How much? But forget about all the crap. Like people were arguing, he shouldn't be allowed in the ring with Devin Haney.
Yeah, and this is another thing as well for the
Because
weigh-in. Like,
this is a world title fight. There was many people more deserving of that, and we thought that Ryan Garcia. Sorry, I didn't interrupt you,
sorry.
but that's my job to everyone. But right, they ever thought Ryan Garcia, like for a world title shot, he was way down the pecking order. He shouldn't have got the opportunity. So he looked like a guy which is going to be a big name, but couldn't get over the line. He's never going to be Gervonta Davis. He's never going to be Devin Haney. People. If he was down to lightweight, he wouldn't beat Lomachenko and all the other guys. He's never going to beat Shakur Stevenson. He wouldn't really beat Regis Prograis. We wouldn't put him against anyone and make him the favourite. So, but he got the win.
Yeah, and that was that. And yeah, it was massive for his career to get the win. It was huge for his career to get the win because of what happened against Gervonta Davis. I said it in the build up to this fight. He's getting fights that his ability level, his proven ability level, don't merit. And what does he do if he doesn't win this fight? And he had to get the win, and he got the win. I don't approve of what I feel he did to or the way he went about it. But a lot of people won't give a fuck that I don't approve, and that's fine. But he did it.
I'm starting to not give a fuck, actually.
As well, like I think before we move on, because it was a very good fight. So we want to try and move on to that before we talk about all the intangibles around it. But yeah, I mean, nobody was looking at it as an advantage, were they, on Friday? Everybody was just looking at it as further evidence that Garcia hadn't trained and he hadn't done this. And nobody before the fight was going, oh, well, Garcia's going to be freep, he's going to be bigger in there. Everyone's like, well, he's been on the piss for the last however long. He's not been taking it seriously. This is just further evidence of that. And I do feel that, and we're going to come on to talk about it as kind of in relation to the fight, but a lot of the things that you kind of associate with Devin Haney, being measured, being mature, being kind of quite logical about things, maybe weren't there. And that could have been the build up to it, the 2 or 3 weeks previous, where rather than going, well, this guy's going to be 170 when he gets in there and he's a big guy and he can punch and all. And I think, not trying to marginalise our terrible picks, but I think everybody here knew that Garcia was going to be dangerous for 3 or 4 rounds at least, regardless of what happened, no matter what happened in the build up to the fight. He was always going to be dangerous. Do you know anyone who
picks Garcia, by the way?
Not really.
I don't. I mean,
there'll be people. There's people in the prediction league who will be telling us that. I don't. No one really that I. Yeah, no one. I think, like, I was going to mention this today. I think we've done these types of previews a few times. One that I remember us doing, Barry, is Lomachenko versus Teofimo Lopez. That was one that we couldn't see any possible way that one would win.
I still don't see how he won.
And then I think the other one was Josh Taylor and Teofimo Lopez. We all picked him for that. Not the same. And then this one, of course. So, yeah, but no, I don't know anybody.
Cambosis, Teofimo Lopez.
Yeah, I mean, no one would have picked that. But sort of the higher profile.
By the way, if Haney would have come in overweight, like massively overweight, then you would go like that. This is just like, that's not fair. I think we would have made an F could have gone, he's the better fighter, he's a massive favourite, and no, he didn't make the weight.
And that's it. Like
with Garcia, it was like he didn't make the weight because it was him.
It was it doesn't matter as long as the fight's still on.
He's going to get schooled anyway. That's the truth of it. That's what we all thought.
But having said that, it's like what Andy said earlier. Like, if Haney hadn't made the weight, he's 0.3 of a pound over. You'd have looked at him and gone, yeah, he would have been like, he would have been one of those guys who really did try to make the weight and couldn't have possibly.
It's funny though with weight because, like, as a boxer, your 2 jobs are to be fit, make the weight. You only got 2 jobs. They're 2 very difficult jobs to do, by the way, physically. The making weight is the worst whenever. So that's the thing. When you retire and you miss boxing, you wish you could go back and have one more fight, and you sit and you watch him fight and you romanticize, oh, I used to miss this feeling. You forget about the making the weight. Like no one remembers that. But I mean, when they do remember that, they go, I never fight as long as I live. Like, that's it. I told John Ryder after the Munguia fight, I said, you're going to fight? I said, I'm not going to fight again, don't think, Barry. I said, go home now, eat as much as you can for 2 months. Get so out of shape that you can't fight again, and then get back into shape when it's when you've gone past that hunger for it, or it's too late to make a comeback. Just get out of shape quick. Because what happens if someone says to you, do you want to fight Edgar Berlanga? No, you'll go, it's one more fight. Do you know what I mean? You almost got to get like Ricky Hatton did the right thing. You get out of shape, I'll never fight again. You know, and I think but you forget about the weight. That's the worst part of it. So yeah, it's I lost my baby now.
That's okay. We've got to move on to talk about the fight anyway. But no, I get what you say. That's why John Ryder messaged me and asked me for my diet plan. But anyway, right. Let's talk about the fight. Barry, going to come to you first. I mentioned there about Devin Haney, and I think it follows in quite well for a fighter who we all wax lyrical about his maturity, about all of the things that he's done well. To get caught with that left hook 40 seconds in, pulling out high in the air.
He's too tentative to start. He was well aware of the power. We all knew the power of Garcia, but it was, and maybe it was because he thought, oh, he looks big. But it was important for Haney to establish that jab really quick. And you had to, and that jab has got to be super fast because he got so much length on the shot. He has got to be really fast. He's not going to be Garcia for speed. We all know that. But you got to be fast enough, and because he's long, that you can sort of dip a bit low with it and flick it out there. And then you use your feet to slide out the distance again. And if Garcia jumps in, you're far enough away, maybe to just take the sting out of the shot. Or you're low enough for him not to really get the proper angle of the punch, or he punches over your head. Or you really step in with him, knock him off balance with it. It was important for him to get that jab going. He didn't really throw anything. He sort of poured a little bit. And so there, he just allow Garcia to take a little bit of a step, enough for him to lunge into that left hook. You'd always got, and it was sort of like he sort of cuffed it, didn't he? It was like almost like off a jab.
I rewatched it because I knew we were going to kind of discuss this point in particular to kind of get things going, and Garcia just sort of is there and he touches with a jab, doesn't he? Garcia, he touches and then whips it round, and as Haney went to, so he touched, and as Haney went to throw the jab, he just whips it the hook round. But for Haney,
Haney landed with the jab, didn't he?
Yeah, but he's here when he lands it, and the hand's back here, which is when the left hook just comes and takes the chin.
The thing is, because you usually got so much length, doing that, turning it, he can do that because when you're trying to put speed or power into a shot, you're automatically going to bring the shoulder back, so you're going to go. So your hand will naturally go like that. Boxers do it quite often now. So you got to learn to try and get it like that. But when you got the reach he has, you can usually get away with it because if you land with that shot, you're so far out they can't land anyway unless they come underneath it. But then if you see that, you move your feet. But the speed Garcia, you can't see what he does. You got to see anytime a Garcia twitches, you got to go, or you got to get low, or you got to turn, you got to do something because you know something's coming. But it was a good shot though. It's a good shot.
We always talked about it. I think we spoke about it we speak about it in many all of the preview shows where it's like show them what you've got early. I mean, I tweeted something in the middle of the night. We were waiting for the fight. Like Garcia's got to start well. He's got to have a good start. If he can have a good start, get the wind in his sails. And if you're Haney, the one thing you cannot afford to let him do is get that left hook off early. And 40 seconds in, not only did he land it, but he hurt Devin Haney. Devin Haney was really hurt in those first 40 seconds.
Yeah, he was heavy. He didn't know where he was. I think, and you could see his legs were unsteady all throughout the round. Really, yeah.
He got caught again with another lead left hook about 30 seconds later, didn't he?
Yes, he was in the trouble. And it looked like, this is going to be it then. And Garcia had that arrogance to just walk you down, maybe let him off the hook. I have to say, the referee didn't do Garcia any favours sort of throughout the fight. Actually. Yeah,
we'll come on to that particularly in the 7th round, I think it was, But we'll come on to that,
But it was an awful start, and then you start to think, ooh.
That's it, didn't it? Because as soon as if Haney went out and won the first 3 or 4 rounds, sort of boring, behind the jab, very one-sided, and you could see, because I felt like Garcia had started to blow as well by rounds 3 or 4. You could tell he was feeling the pace. But because Garcia got that left hook off a couple of times, got the reaction, and the crowd went up. Admittedly, the next few rounds, I thought were Haney rounds, and Garcia didn't do much. But it was always a factor after that point, wasn't it?
Yeah, but he had, I think, that arrogance of a puncher, which can obviously help him at times because they slow things down and they just think, I've got to land with that big shot. So it didn't do him any favours. I mean, sometimes you have success early in a fight, especially a knockdown or a heavy shot, and then in your mind you're sort of dining out on that. I say that like it never happened to me. I never did it. But they sort of dine out there. I got him. I know every time I hit him, I can hurt him. And actually, you're 4 rounds later, and you're going, I haven't really hit him. Fuck.
Sort of what happened, really, wasn't it?
I thought, well, what Haney did from round 2 to 5, I think it was 2 to 5. I got my scorecard here. The Barry app.
The Barry Jones app, available now in all Barry Jones stores.
I got mini stuff, by the way, mini iPhone, mini pad, all to suit my mini self. It's I thought, I think from 2 to 5, I thought it was all Haney. I really did. I thought he boxed it. I thought that's what we've seen there. What I thought we would have seen from the very first round. I thought that was it. He's controlling it. There was little pockets of Garcia caught him with a good shot. There was always that danger there. But he was controlled and he was busy with the jab and his footwork was good. And I thought he's moving but never running. And then he started to back up Garcia. I think that was important. Like using a stronger jab, backing him up, and then making him. No, you still got to be. You can't overcommit with Garcia because he has that. He punches well off the ropes. That left hook whip. When he moves back with that left hook, he gets a real whip to it. So, and he was aware of everything. And I thought this is the pattern of the fight. Now it just goes one way. And I thought this is going to be Haney. It's going to be safety first. He's not going to get that stoppage that I thought he was going to get, but he's going to win every round. No, I couldn't. I thought he's focused and he's disciplined and he's done that throughout his career. Garcia's let him off the hook early, and that's the end of him. I was wrong again.
Yeah, I mean it was a very much a fight of two halves, Andy. Obviously Garcia had the rapid fire start. We hurt Haney a couple of times, but it did look as though Haney, as Barry said there, in rounds 2, 3, 4 and 5 just started to find that rhythm, and then at that point it was kind of like, okay, what's going to happen here from Ryan Garcia? It looked as though, to me, after 3 or 4 rounds, he kind of started to look a little bit out of ideas. He started to look like he'd slowed down a little bit. Obviously, evidence of potentially not the best camp, but it all exploded into life in the 7th round.
Yeah, it did. It did. When you're watching a fight like this, you always want to see a good fight, don't you? That's what you tune in for. If you don't have a horse in the race, and it doesn't, it's never going to bother us really who wins a fight. That's part of the prerequisites of doing what we do, and I certainly didn't care who won out of Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia. So when Garcia made the start that he did, I thought, great, this is exactly what this fight needed, exactly what it needed. But then that momentum he gained from that, or that self-belief he would have gained from that big boost it would have given him, did seem to kind of dissipate. Haney seemed to take the sting out of it and just stick that syringe in him and just kind of gradually suck that belief out of him a bit more. And I agree with you. I felt like by halfway around there, it looked like that flashpoint early, it maybe wasn't going to get any better than that. But yeah, the second half of the fight, he landed it again exactly when he needed to, didn't he?
Yeah.
Because he was at the point of where he would have been starting to think to himself, this just isn't happening. This just isn't happening.
He starts making mistakes then, doesn't he?
Yeah, but then he landed one, and then all of a sudden it's a different story.
He had a good start to the 6th round, Ryan Garcia. He came out, he threw a lot of punches in the 6th round.
I think I put
I
put that as close.
Yeah, I gave that round to Garcia based on the work that he did early in the round. But it was so typical, and so I've left it up there because it's quite funny to look back. But like, obviously Haney had been nailed by that left hook twice in the first round. He got caught by a couple of shots in sort of 2, 3, 4 and 5. But in the 6th round, when Garcia came out and stuck it on him, I remember thinking at the time, and I tweeted it much to my embarrassment later, like, clearly nothing wrong with Devin Haney's chin, because he's there and he's getting hit with these big shots and he's firing back and he's all good, and he got wobbled in the first round but caught cold and what have you. And then I think 3 minutes later he was on the deck, Barry, which is the commentator's curse or the tweeter's curse. But
I think the thing is, it's hard to say whether there's something wrong with his chin because Garcia can punch. If a puncher hits you clean, you're going over.
Yeah,
but like, it's just There was one knockdown. I can't remember which one there was now. There was the left. He was really close to him.
That was the last one.
Let's forget. Go to that then. But I think that 7th round, he looked in trouble. But he almost went over twice, didn't he?
He was in big trouble on the floor. You know, it was sort of like that. Remember when Charlo knocked out Erickson Lubin, and he's sort of trying to turn over and he can't quite. He's on and he can't. And it looked as though Haney might do that at one point. He turned over and he just thought there was a minute where it was like, okay, is he going to be able to get up here?
Exactly.
And then when he got up, and the leg, and then when he got up, he was all over the place. When he got up, it was one of those it was like the Pacquiao Chris Algieri moment, wasn't it, where they were over in the corner with Bill Haney at the time. And like, how's it going, Bill? And he's like, yeah, we're doing this, and he had a good start. And then, okay, we're going to leave you there, Bill, because your son just got dropped. Like, sorry, Bill. Like it wasn't quite. We're about to let him out of the cage, but it was.
He needed it, didn't he? Got it right when he needed it.
He did, yeah. It sort of reminded me of people who talk about like the Garcia left hook, and it is. It's a serious shot, no matter what.
Look at this on my scorecard, right? On the Barry app. So I got him after round 9. I got it 86-83 to Haney, and then after round 11, I got him down by 3 points, and then 2 rounds later,
He's ahead.
He's up by 1.
Yeah. I think
2
I must have
10-8s.
had. I must have had the same. Yeah, I must have had.
Man,
a
10-8s.
he had 4 points in 2 rounds.
Yeah.
That's 5, but sorry, I can't count.
But
But it could have been 5 because I think there was one point in that 7th round. He's not. I think it was the 7th round.
There was a couple.
No, but he literally almost went over, didn't he? And he also sort of like he was taking that step back and he's trying to find his balance, show loads of strength to keep on his feet.
I think that was one of the left hook. I think it was either one of the 10th or 11th. But the 7th round was when, I mean, this has caused a lot of consternation online about referee Harvey potentially giving Devin Haney too much time to recover.
Oh, he did.
There was the point that was taken off for Ryan Garcia for obviously hitting on the break as well. But 2 knockdowns that could have been, but obviously weren't scored.
Yeah, and fair enough, I think, to be honest. I would say to the referee, I think he was right to give the point because he hit him on the break. That could have knocked him out.
It wasn't a soft shot on the break.
It wasn't a
either,
soft
was it?
shot.
Yeah,
No, it wasn't.
a big shot,
And
yeah.
no, and he's right in front of the referee. The referee said break, and he's just gone fuck you and throw it.
And
anyway.
he'd already been warned by that point.
Yeah,
As well, yeah.
but also Haney didn't get warned for the constant holding. I mean, he had to hold to stay alive. I mean, we've all done it. It was so obvious, and I mean with the holding, he's staying alive, trying to stay in the fight, but it's not allowing Garcia to do his job. And it did take a long time when Garcia was knocked down to make sure he was okay, and they made sure he separated them. And maybe that's Garcia's fault for taking too much of a step forward because you are meant to stay in the neutral corner.
Needed to do the Mauricio Lara where you just sort of creep up,
Yeah,
and then before you know it, he's there.
but also that doesn't happen anymore in modern boxing. They don't stay in the corner. They do nick the space, and referees usually let it go. So and for the and yesteryear, you literally could stand over the fight, wait for him to get up, couldn't you, and just whack him straight away before my time, but he did give Haney a lot of breathing space to recover, I think, but also Garcia doing this. You're not allowed to do that.
Yeah,
you can't put the glove in the eyesight of your opponent, and he got away with that quite often, I think, as well. And he turned his back continuously.
It was quite a scrappy
The
fight.
shoulder roll, he won't let it go.
Yeah,
that shoulder roll,
there was a few things going on where a different referee would have done it differently, because I've always been interested by that. Like, some referees won't allow it, some will.
You can't do it.
But I mean, I think that's at
You're
the
more
referee's
likely to see
discretion, though.
that one get allowed than that one.
Yeah, you'll never. Yeah,
They're
won't
both
allow that.
illegal, but that one's
Yeah.
easier to get away with than the palm in the face.
I mean,
with
if the
glove.
arm's bent a little bit, it's like that.
Yeah.
Like an old-fashioned Soviet Union
Victor
fighter.
Postel.
Yeah, that's fine because it's arched, but I mean, you're protecting yourself like that. But I mean, to extend the arm like this and put it in the face of the glove in the face of an opponent is limiting his view, which is cheating. You might as well hide behind the referee.
But there were a few things.
I've tried that, by the way, it didn't work.
There were a few things, as you say, Andy, that it wasn't the cleanest of fights in a sense of. I mean, even to the point of Garcia, there were times where Garcia smothered his work, and if he'd have been a little bit more cool head in a hot kitchen, he probably could have picked his shots a bit better and got rid of Haney. But it wasn't there were some less than it wasn't always the Marquess of Queensberry rules observed as they should be.
No, but you're going to get that. It's a fight, and the referee has to officiate it as best he or she can. And I didn't have any major issues with any of that, to be honest. It was massively entertaining to watch. I mean, that second half of the fight particularly, it really was. I mean, I described it earlier as probably a pretty wild night if you were there, and that's really how it kind of came across, because there is nothing better than a fight just turning out in a way that nobody expected it to. As much as you tell yourself, particularly if you're working on it, I can't have any preconceived ideas about how this is going to go, inevitably, more often than not, you do have some. And then when it unfolds in a way that one did, then it's just a brilliant thing to watch. The biggest one I've been at for that was AJ Ruiz, which was just crazy. It's just kind of burned on my brain just looking around Madison Square Garden, people on their feet, pretty much everyone on their feet, just watching this thing happening that nobody thought could happen. So it was a massive performance by Garcia, and despite the other things that I've said, you cannot describe it in any other way, because it did look like he was running out of ideas, as you described it, as we got through 5 rounds particularly. But he found a way back in. And to finish the way that he finished and get over the line, you know, it's a huge win. It is a huge win.
Barry, just on because we're kind of going back to Devin Haney and the punch resistance. Obviously, he was dropped 3 times. He was dropped by a guy who can really punch. I mean, everybody, particularly that left hook, it is a real honey punch for Ryan Garcia, certainly in and around those weights. So my kind of like, I guess me trying to decipher my own terrible tweet in the middle of the night was, does he have a bad chin, or is it his inability to get away from? I mean, he got buzzed by that left hook in the first 40 seconds, and he got hurt with it in the 12th round, and he got hurt with it at regular points throughout. The dip into the right hand side was something that Haney was doing from the first round.
He does that all the time.
Yeah. But like his inability to adjust to that and to change his defensive exit, I suppose, is that more of a concern over the chin? Because he did, as you mentioned, show unbelievable heart to get through that fight.
It's funny in a defeat or in moments of crisis, then all your errors become apparent. So where Haney gets it, like Ryan Garcia, for instance, power and speed gets him out of trouble. He can be outboxed, he's getting outboxed in that fight, but it gets him out of trouble. The speed and power. So sometimes we have trouble with power. They don't learn to do things that others have to do because they don't have to learn them, because they've always got away with just going crack at some point. And if he doesn't knock you out, it puts you in your place, puts you in your box, so they can control the fight with less technical prowess, because every time they hit you, they hurt you. And same with, we have massive long reach, like Devin Haney. Maybe you get away with leaning over to the right, which he does consistently, always done that. I think we spoke about before in another fight, I think, about that. And he gets away with that.
Lomachenko, because he dips into the southpaw left
we were talking about that, weren't we? And because he got the reach, he gets away with it. I thought Lomachenko could get inside and work, which he did at times. But I didn't think that would be a factor with this. I didn't. I just stick to my guns. I just didn't see how Garcia was. He was always dangerous with the shot. Always could hurt Haney, I thought. But I thought once Haney got a stranglehold of the contest, which he did, I think. It was not quite a stranglehold, but he got a good footing in that contest, didn't he? For in early as well. I thought it would just be a struggle for Garcia. I thought he would have to take a risk, jump from too far out. He likes to jump into a shot, jump from too far out, and walk onto a shot. I thought he was going to get stopped, and I thought it was going to be relatively early. I did, and he showed loads of ball, Garcia. Just had belief and and good energy. So you should do half a weight class up. But to persevere. He must have felt he was getting outboxed, but just knowing I got the self belief. In every round, he did catch him with a shot, even if it wasn't heavy. He caught him with a shot, so he just thinking, I can get you. And that 7th round there, where he needed it most, because you're getting to a point now, second half of the fight. You might have won the first round very big. We haven't run a round since. There's a panic there. I don't care who you are. There's a panic there, thinking, hang on, this against a guy you're an underdog. You know you're up against it. This is not going the way I thought it was going to. No, I haven't got to him early. How am I going to get to him now? No, he's in his rhythm. You have to knock him out, and he did. And even then, those last few rounds again, because after that, then I think Haney had a couple of good rounds again.
This was another thing. Garcia sort of poured it on in that 7th round. Obviously, sent Haney to the canvas a couple more times, weren't ruled a knockdown. But then you could see in the 8th round, he's put a lot into that 7th round. He sort of let Haney recover, and I thought, he's going to let him off the hook again.
If you're in the corner with that stupid shot and the break, he probably stops Haney. I think Haney was in all sorts of trouble. I think he might have stopped him, and like him being lack of discipline. No, we added to the drama. Let's be honest. For selling a fight, he did the best fucking thing. Really, he should have headbutted him and kicked him in the shins.
He said Derek James got hold of him, didn't he, at the 11th round? He's like, look, 3 minutes, just do this, just jab. And he went, I'm going to bite him. And he went, no, don't bite him. Fucking Jesus Christ! Imagine that you're across from this mad bastard.
Chris Mannix gone into said about the shoulder roll, didn't he? He went into the corner. Derek James said some pat.
Yeah, and he was like,
no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We reckon he's doing that.
Again, that's him tired, surely. Like that's the way of looking at it. He doesn't have to move his feet if he's doing that. He just
but that's the oddball in him. That's the oddball in him, where he thinks that looks good. No, we joked about Sky Nicholson, who boxed really well to win the world title the other week, but the worst showboat on the planet. But to her, she probably thought it looked brilliant. And sometimes you coach the fight and you think, you're looking like Sugar Ray Leonard, but actually you're just giving rounds away. We've all done that, boxers and movers at times, and I think that was that's our shoulder roll thing. For he thinks it looks good. Because when you see Mayweather do it, it's brilliant. He makes you miss by an inch and he comes back with a lovely shot. He just turns his back on you. And Haney did the right thing. Just bang. And he got warned first of all, but he's got, and you can't, if the opponent turns his back, you still can't hit him. But he doesn't give you a target to hit. The referee's got to tell him. You can't just turn away. I'd still be fighting now if turning away was a fucking thing, was allowed. Hang on a minute, well, just turn around and then we have a rest. And, but so he can't get the shot. He just can't do it. It's awful. But he still found a way to fire back. I had more respect for Ryan Garcia after that fight, within the fight, and but I did. Yeah, no, you're right. No, I agree with what you said about. But in the fight, because he showed loads of bottle, loads of toughness.
Yeah, he did,
and he showed a lot of good qualities to make a good fighter. And also, he was never meant to really be in the races. That's the truth of it. He always had that power and speed, but good technique, good fundamentals, a good discipline. That was the worst fighter for him to box. But for Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney was the worst kind of fighter. All Devin Haney lacked was the raw power of a Gervonta Davis. But that's the worst style for him. Some guy who can just pop that jab in your face and just stop you in the track every time you make a move. So he just takes away your speed, takes away your power, because he controls that space. He negates your power. You can't use it. You can't get close enough to hit him. So bam, bam. With someone like Gervonta Davis, who thought would know too much, because he's a short, more compact fighter, he's got to get close to you to hurt you. So there's always a chance you can catch him. There's always a hope you can catch him. I couldn't see how he could land with once Haney just got that jab into play and put him in his place. He put him in his box and he got him and he had him. Really, I thought, and I thought that was it. Then that's the end. That's what I thought the fight before the fight happened. He just put him in his box early. Garcia, who never bends his legs, fast hands, fast feet, but no real thought. I didn't think up until that point. I think there is more thought in his work. We'll just not know what to do, and just be swinging fresh air, and then get caught and get stopped. That's what I thought. So I think he showed not a massive adaptability, but a bit of an adaptability in his game. And a perseverance and a belief, and that can take you so far. That can take you, and all of a sudden now he's technically a little bit better than what I thought. He's not massively, but a little bit better. And he beat a guy who really was the worst style for him, which is that's a tremendous thing to do at that stage where he shouldn't have been. Where we were arguing in the boxing world that he shouldn't be allowed the opportunity to box for that world title because he's way down the pecking order. And as Andy said, it's just his profile allowed him a fight that his ability shouldn't have put him in.
Just on,
but we were wrong.
Just on Devin Haney, it's one of the things that we did discuss in the build-up. Admittedly, certainly didn't foresee a Ryan Garcia win, but we've seen in the past the Jojo Diaz fight is one that always I remember after 4 rounds where the legs go and he becomes a lot more flat-footed. And something you mentioned earlier about he wasn't running. I mean, it might have been Andy. He wasn't running. He was boxing. And we've spoken about Shakur Stevenson and Devin Haney, and this is like I feel like we learned a lot about Devin Haney at the weekend. That wasn't great, to be honest. And considering that, I think we've all given him a lot of credit and a lot of kind of reverence for the way that he's handled a very young career to this point. It certainly doesn't mean that he can't become and learn from the weekend. I'm sure he will. But we mentioned kind of in the build-up about, Ryan Garcia's got a dangerous left hook. Devin Haney will take that away from him. He's not interested. He got nailed by it in the first 40 seconds. Yeah. He felt that power in the first 40 seconds, and then as the fight went on, he didn't do a Shakur Stevenson, who, look, everyone was bored to death by the Edwin De Los Santos fight, but he won the fight, and he just refused to engage. He's like, you've got power, we're going to keep on the outside. Haney, I don't know whether or not it's because after 4 or 5 rounds that we've seen in the past, he has this dump where he doesn't have the spring in his step anymore, and he starts to hold his feet a bit more, and he becomes a bit easier to hit. Did we see that, or is that...
I think once you're hurt... Even though it was early and he won all the rounds, once you get hurt, it does affect your mindset a little bit. I think he went in too tentative. He went in expecting to get hurt and didn't throw a jab. And when he did throw it, he didn't really commit to it. That's what I think. I think he was not waiting to get hurt, but over cautious of the power.
That's, again, like such a surprise when you consider all of the, from my own perspective, but when we've all discussed it, like, all of the credit that we've given to Haney has been about, sort of unflappable,
focus, belief, discipline,
all of that stuff. And even still with kind of like, the ability to admittedly we hadn't really seen, we did see it in the Lomachenko fight, like to adapt and to change what's going on in front of him And he didn't show any of that.
But you see, you go in with a preconceived idea of what's going to happen sometimes in a fight. So, tactically, you go like, just watch that left hook, watch that left hook, watch that left hook. That's what they would have said. I mean, I've had in my own contest, watch this. And if something happens and it changes the pattern, you get caught. But sometimes you just wait too long. You're over expecting where you should be telling a fighter. If in the change room just before they go out, you go, listen, don't forget, just watch that left hook. That's not. I'm not saying they did that, but you almost got to go like the conversation should be, get that jab in the plate, get that jab. No, you talk about positive note, what you can do, not what they do. You're well aware. You've trained and you're well aware what they can do. But I've been in the change room and it's been like that. Listen, just watch out for this. And then when you're in a negative fight, if you're in a big negative fight, which he is, I understand that because I was like that. Then you do always go, watch out. You're well aware of what's coming before you're looking to react rather than be a bit assertive. And I think against Garcia, he needed to put the jab in his face really early and fast, and it needed to be whap, fast and hard and long, very long, and show him this is the gap you gotta close to get to me, and make Garcia reactive to you. But I just think he waited a little bit too long, and he was moving, not really doing much, and that just allowed Garcia to go, because Garcia's thought is always, I'm gonna knock you out. That's why, because that's all he can do, I think. Also, I thought that's all he could do. No, my man never bends his legs. I don't know where he gets the power from. I'll say it to the day I die. I don't know where he gets the power from. Like, it's madness. The power he gets, you should be dipping down. Your chest should be touching your knee. The power he generates, the whip in his shots. I think, so I do think he was not massively exposed. But yeah, if we have to all of a sudden you go, is it because he got that long reach and he is the naturally bigger guy that he has been to be able to get away with stuff? You start to reevaluate now. You start to pick holes. It's a terrible sport, isn't it, really? Yeah. Because someone loses, you pick holes in him. But we thought he lost to Lomachenko. Yeah. But that never took away from how good he is. Because he lost a very close fight to Lomachenko. I thought Lomachenko won, but it was close. And just to be close with Lomachenko means you're a fucking good fighter. If you can have a close fight with him, you are a class fighter. But the way I just looked at the Cambosas fights, even though Cambosas is not a massive puncher, just the discipline he showed. And in the second fight, he was even more disciplined. I thought that moment, that not giving a shit what the crowd think,
and also
it's very important to give someone like Garcia, who you want to try over impress, you give him an opportunity and he puts you to sleep. I thought you just closed that gap, and he obviously. I
think it's hard for Haney in the aftermath of this probably to work out exactly what happened and what the defeat means and what he should do now, because. You could argue that he could look at it or should look at it and think, okay, I've always been the bigger fighter at 140 and at 135, but he's now at 140. But on Saturday, I came up against somebody who was as big as me. Maybe I shouldn't be at this weight anymore.
Good point.
Or he can look at it and think, but the guy who beat me wasn't at that weight because he didn't make it. I should continue at 140 because the only way that anybody can match me for size is if they do what Garcia did, which he will make sure, I'd imagine, as much as you ever can, that can't happen to him again. So I don't really know mentally where he goes with it. It's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a confusing situation as well. It's also, I don't know, it's...
The thing about making weight, though, I would say these penalties for making weight, if it was $1.5 million, which I wouldn't think it was that. But it should be 50% of your purse. Then people will make weight, or people will pull out.
Yeah, there has to be a proper deterrent, doesn't it?
Has to, because if just say for argument's sake it was $1.5 million, which it wasn't. But if you're getting paid that much money, that's not an issue. Then that's not a deterrent, is it?
No,
it needs to be percentage.
No, exactly.
Yeah,
because
getting
compensated, it doesn't erase the fact that what has happened has happened. It doesn't, that's not what that is.
But away from the weight, final one on kind of Haney before we look at what's next for both of them. Is it, do we look at now Haney the punch resistance? Do we look at Haney's punching power? He obviously didn't have that deterrent. He wasn't able to keep Garcia honest or keep him off him.
He got up. So he got up and fought back every time he got knocked down. So I don't think his chin is that frail. I mean, he can be hurt, and he's been hurt before, but he fires back. I think if someone if a big punch hits you on the chin, chances are you are going to go over. So I don't think his chin's a massively suspect, because Garcia is a massive puncher. And he's a fast puncher as well, so it's the one you don't see. So you can see it disconnects you, but you get up. And also at one time he was all over the place, and he was able to find his feet relatively quickly, considering how badly he looked he was hurt. So I think he has that strength of character to fire back under pressure. So I think that's if anything, we saw quality there, I think. But anyone who can punch will think, I can knock him out now. But not be able to knock someone down and keep them down is two different things.
And not everyone can punch like Ryan Garcia.
And the speed, I think the speed's more worry that is more of a factor. And his jaw was like that, by the way. So on the right, actually on the left side, wasn't it? I think
both sides, he had damage.
And when he was talking after, you could see there was a problem with his jaw. So he's I think he showed some good qualities. But then you do think, some of the things that he doesn't do so great were magnified, but aren't they always in a defeat? Aren't they always when you get hurt? Yeah. You see things more clearly, and that sometimes then is a window for other fighters to go through, because they didn't massively see. I thought he didn't do that very well, but now I've seen it clearly, so we'll work on that. So they'll be fainting. Everyone will be fainting, hooking off the jab. There'll be a combination that's gone out of fashion. When I was a kid, hooking off the jab was everything, and no one did it. I joked about it on Box Nation years ago. No one throws a hook off the jab anymore. And I heard with Gary Lockett. Gary Lockett said that's because your arms out there for too long, and there's a big gap, and people expose it. But I also hook off the jab was brilliant, and especially if you feint it. And Garcia does that really well.
He's got that freakish speed where it doesn't necessarily matter.
Yes, right, yeah. And also, you get the speed right. He was feinting a little bit now and again as well. I think he showed some good qualities, Garcia. But it was still a close fight down the stretch. I think the way Haney pulled it back, I think he made it a real close fight, I thought. I give
Garcia five rounds.
I think we scored the same.
I give him the first, the 6th, the 10th, 11th, and the 12th.
And the 7th.
7th, yes. Beg your pardon, yeah. For some reason, I had the 8th round was the first knockdown. But anyway, right. Andy, going to come to you. What next for the still WBC super lightweight champion Devin Haney, who is still the champion? It's been revealed by Mauricio Suleiman, which was obviously caused quite a lot of discussion on the timeline yesterday. We did an interview with Eddie Hearn, of course, sort of working with Devin Haney. He was like, that belt's now vacant, and he's like literally saying it in real time. Mauricio saying, no, it's not, because was it Castillo and Corrales too? Castillo blew the weight, didn't he? And he yeah. So
just to say, right, years ago, like a fella called Neil Swain, like killer boxed, right? He was a Commonwealth champion, and he boxed in South Africa, not for a title. Boxed a fella called Anton Gilmore. And it wasn't for the title, but they boxed inside the championship weight.
And it could have been for the title.
Yeah, so they stripped him. They stripped him of his Commonwealth title. They stripped him of his title. Yeah. It was a non-title fight from two Commonwealth states, and because it was in the weight limit, if you boxed within your limit, you lost your title. So I think like Haney shouldn't be champion. I mean, bollocks, isn't it?
No, if the WBC are
going to number 1, number 2, thinking, oh yes, and now you've got to go.
If they're going to stick with their own rules, then it'd be vacant, wouldn't it? But as we know, they are their own entities, and they can do what they want.
Under the discretion of the WBC's board of governors.
That is how boxing works or doesn't at times. That's just it didn't surprise me to.
We'll let you know the rules. We'll let you know the rules when we know.
Basically,
we'll let you know when we've decided.
There's because this was circulated yesterday. There's rules on there, and it has all of these things, but then all of them is like, but then we'll decide. Yeah. These are the rules, but
the whole situation was one of those that's tailor-made for this fantasy land where we have the equivalent of what they have in, say, Formula One, where they've got a governing body who seem to have the whole thing really on lockdown, and they really do decide what happens, rules, regulations, fines, all of it. But we don't have that. It'd be amazing if we did, and then you could say, listen, if you break your contract and you miss weight, then this is what happens, and blah blah, and no one can argue, and it's all taken care of. But we don't have that, so it didn't surprise me that much to see something like that happen with Haney. I don't know, it's hard to say, because does he decide that he can continue at super lightweight? You'd imagine he will, because again, he made the weight. And if he can continue to do it, then you'd imagine that he'll stick around at 140. You know, they talked about a rematch, but there's no way that could happen at 140. There's just no way there's just no way, is there? Because Garcia said that he can't do it. And if you're Haney, how could you sign to fight him at 140 again?
Yeah.
There's no way you could you? I mean,
No.
there's just no way you could. So
long
answer is I really don't know with Haney. I think he will stay at 10 stone. I
spoke to some people in and around the Haney camp beforehand, and it's also worth pointing out that he was coming off arguably the career best performance against Regis Prograis. He looked $1 million at 140. We all spoke about how he looked stronger there. He had more pop in his shots and what have you. By all accounts, he did the weight even better for this fight than he did that fight. So, I mean, obviously, but he's a big boy anyway, as a lot of people are making weight. No matter, just because you move up from 35 to 40 doesn't mean you're not going to struggle to make the weight. I do feel like Ryan Garcia can make it. He was 136 last year. He was
this is the other thing.
And he was in the pubs and in the he wasn't like, you can't tell me you can't do £3 if you're on the piss. Apparently spent 40 grand in a bar on tequila on the Tuesday night.
You would have to get
you can do the £3.
You would have to get so many things in place though, wouldn't you? Because you just wouldn't trust it.
And also with Garcia now, like if you're like looking after him, do you just go? It's not the same thing. Like, remember when Wayne Rooney used to play for Man United, and she said, "Yeah, he just needs to be aggressive. Just let him." Just Garcia, just like, no, he needs to be just out in a bar or something. Like, we need
with
to get
him.
Somebody said about the Javante Davis fight, we need to see a rematch because Ryan Garcia was far too mentally stable for the first fight.
But again, you know, what's really kind of fascinating after something like that on Saturday is that, you know, what meaning do you really extract from it? From in the context of sports, all about teams and individuals square off because we want to know who's better than who. Do we know who's better than who after Saturday? Because we had a welterweight against a super lightweight when they weighed in. So you can't say that Garcia's a top super lightweight now because he didn't box at super lightweight. You can't say he's the top welterweight now because he didn't beat a welterweight. And you can say whatever you want about what they weighed on the night. You know, that's what happened.
Yeah,
when it comes to that is just a fact. So with Garcia, it's again how, in the grand scheme of things, where is he? It's difficult. It's difficult to know. All I hope with him going forward is that he doesn't do this again. Basically. With regard to that, I know I've bored everybody going on about the weight.
No.
It's a valid point.
All I really hope is he doesn't do this again. He's done it once. I don't give him a pass for it. He's done it once, and it worked, and he was brilliant on the night and all of that stuff. It's not as simple as, I'll come in 3 pounds heavy and that'll guarantee victory. Of course not. I don't think that. I'm not an idiot. But he's done it once. Please don't do this again. Because you're a big name and you think that even when it's Devin Haney, you can just make him swallow it and take the fight anyway. And that isn't what happened. I'm not saying Haney was backed into a corner and he was like, I don't want to fight, but I'm being made to. That didn't happen. He still thought he was going to win. But Garcia, Ryan, whichever camera we're on, if you're watching, which you clearly do, you clearly watch this, please don't do this again because it's bad for the sport.
I don't know what Ryan Garcia is doing right now, but I can guess he's not watching the boxing show. So for Devin Haney, Sandor Martin is the WBC mandatory challenger.
It's a nice fight for him to come back to.
Yeah, not a big puncher as well. So that's that you can see that being a fencing match, can't you?
Yeah, it's a good fight for him to come back to. It's a fight he restore. It's not an easy fight for him, but it's a fight he can restore his confidence again and get that self-belief back. But the fight they'll want, and everyone will want, and even we'll want, is the rematch. It'd be a good. That was a good fight to watch.
That'd be a big money fight as well.
For everyone involved.
Money.
I imagine the viewing figures were decent, were really good. I think it was packed out. The arena was pretty much packed, and it was a good fight to watch at home as well. And I stayed up for it. I never stay up for stuff. No, I'd never stay up. I stayed up for that one.
Yeah, same. It's rare for me these days.
Even on the way to the train station this morning, I had radio on in the car, and they were talking about Ryan Garcia versus Devin Haney on the radio in the UK at 7:30 in the morning, which is not something you usually hear that for, like the big heavyweight fights or what have you. And you're listening to it was Jeff Stelling talking about Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney. You just think like, fucking hell, like. It's been a while since I've heard like a non-heavyweight fight.
Yeah,
so Mayweather Pacquiao, Mayweather Pacquiao. In this country, Mayweather Hatton.
Yeah, But that just shows, though, that
But
also you'll do what he wants, and you know that ultimately he's just thinking, listen, this is the fight everyone wants to see. This is the big money fights. So I'm one of the biggest draws in boxing. Name a bigger draw outside of.
This is the other thing that we were going to talk about. You know, we spoke about this beforehand. In the unthinkable, which is a position that we seem to exist in quite a lot in boxing, and he wins the fight, where does it put him? And I put that question to you both now. Where is Ryan Garcia in the... I guess...
does what he wants, doesn't he?
Yeah.
As far as
kind of biggest stars in the sport...
He might end up being the richest boxer to never win a world title.
Yeah,
that's a possibility.
Also beat an unbeaten world champion.
Because trying to work out how good he is in the way that I kind of outlined a few minutes ago, it doesn't even really matter for him, to be honest. I'm not saying it doesn't matter to him. It may or it may not. But in terms of his ability to get fights, he's in that position where it doesn't actually really matter.
He's a prize fighter, isn't he?
And
he's a superstar.
But also, if the fights are like that and he's bringing value... No, who cares about Gatti and Ward? What did they box for? Do you remember?
An IBA world title.
That's right, we can't really remember, can we? It was like, they were great fights. I mean, that's not the same fight as that, but that was a good, entertaining fight. Should have been for the world title, I know. But I mean, arguably, shouldn't have been for the world title because Garcia wasn't worthy of the world title's opportunity up to that point. So him not making the weight was to try and clean up boxing and say, I don't deserve the box for this title, so I'm going to come in overweight so I don't get the challenge for the world title. I mean, in his own weird way, he did us a service. No, but I mean, but that's the way boxing is now. It's just the commercial value. That's one of the most commercial valuable fights out there. And so it'll happen again. It'll have to. They both want it. They both think they can win as well. Haney will look at that and go, so I could have won that fight if I would have stayed on my feet. I mean, we've all said that. But I mean, just one knockdown difference and he wins the fight. Maybe.
Yeah, well, one had a draw. One had there was a couple of points in between, but I can't remember.
And the last one I give the last one to Garcia, I think, and that could have gone either way. You think that you give it to Haney? I think I got a draw. I give it a draw. Give it to Haney. I think. I thought Garcia won the last round because again, we spoke about this recently, haven't we? Like scoring hurtful shots that clearly hurt your opponent. I think, and I feel like Garcia did that in the 12th round. He went for a walk and stuff like that. And fair play to Haney because rounds 10 and 11 were as torrid as they can be. Yeah, especially when you're tired.
Tired, and he is clearly big at the weight. Whether he did the weight better or not, he's clearly. And those championship rounds are where it really gets hard. And then when you start getting hit with big shots in rounds 10, 11 of a championship fight.
And by the way, recovering from a knockdown, like especially early on in the fight. But when you get hurt and buzzed, that takes so much out of you.
And it did. It looked like it did for him.
Forget about the brain stuff, whether you feel jelly out. I mean, just physically to get the shock, getting off the floor, everything. It's like see someone in a car crash who's not seriously hurt, get it shuddered, and they like the next day or two they're just exhausted. That's shock to your system. That's what's like when you take a big heavy punch. You, honest to God, I literally like you go back to the corner and you go. Oh, not the power, not the pain. You've recovered from all that, but your body's tired, and you think, "Fuck, I'm knackered. Like, why am I so tired?" You should be whacked. That's why, like the shock of the sheer system. So he had that, and he got hurt a few times as well. Even though around all those knockdowns, not that many, around the knockdowns as well, that do empty your tank, and that's what big punches do. They just beat you up and slow you down. Golovkins and all them. If they don't knock you out, every punch they hit you with hard just drains your energy. So in the end, you have nothing left. And it's not all about like your brain scrambled or your legs are gone. Just your energy's gone. They beat the fight out of you. And so he wasn't having that done to him. And all the time, you're trying to up your energy to stay with him or to outbox him or to stay away from him. And also your breathing's different because you think, I got to be really sharp now. So you have to try and heighten your senses. And all that all that is all physical. Everything about it, the mental side of it, it all takes a physical effect on you. So when you get to the later stages, you're absolutely exhausted more than the guy who's just walking you down and bullying you. And then when they knock you down again later on in the fight, usually it's a sign that you're done. So he showed great fortitude. I think we've seen a lot of good stuff from Devin Haney, even in defeat. We showed what he does have is loads of bottle, which we've seen little glimpses at in fights before, but not like that, obviously, because he's never been in a fight like that.
A fight of that magnitude, and to be hurt like that in a fight like that as well.
Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, we are going to move on. I think we all want to see the rematch. Was basically the answer to that.
King Ryan,
the rematch,
really
or it'll be. I mean, Garcia could really do what he wants now. He boxed at 147, 140.
he did. He's already done that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But one thing's for sure: you're going to get a queue of people from 130 to 160 who want to fight him.
Everyone's calling him out now.
Everyone's going to want to fight him. He's talking about fighting Sebastian Fundora and all sorts of stuff. But the fact is, he won't be short of options for sure, Mr. Garcia. Right. Okay. We don't have much time on this one because we're going to talk about Canelo and Munguia in a separate pod. Before we move away from Saturday night, Barry, I'm going to come to you quickly for a really terrible decision. There's no two ways about it. Sean McComb robbed blind, and robbed is not a word that we like to throw around very often on this podcast.
Box his ears off.
But really did get a frankly disgusting rub of the green in a split decision loss to Arnold Barboza.
I don't know what you want more from a fighter. He used ring generalship. He threw more punches, landed more punches, cleared the shots were landed.
Made him miss.
It did everything well. He moved and never ran once. He used the ring perfectly. When Barboza got him on the ropes, he bobbed and weaved and slipped and pivoted, all that stuff. That makes you go crazy. He boxed perfect. I've never seen the kid box so well. He boxed really well. And you're worried at all. You see him because he quit against Gavin Gwynn, and he did. I covered the fight. He did quit. You just think put pressure on him, and he'll fold. But I think he's learned from that. I think it was one of his. That was like his no match thing, where he never been in the pressure before. He just for that split second went, I don't want to be here, and then thought, shit, it's too late now. I think there was that. The fight you're probably going to get beat anyway. But Gavin Gwynn is tremendously tough. But Gavin Gwynn closed the gap, and every time McComb threw a shot, he just threw with him. Barboza was waiting for gaps to throw his shots, waiting too long. He's putting pressure on him. The pressure wasn't enough to make McComb panic once. McComb dictated everything. I mean, there was 2 rounds you can give Barboza. That's all I gave him. That's the truth. And that is a whitewash. That's literally, why did he turn up? And you're going to think that, why did I come here for? Big, massive occasion, big fight for me. I come in an underdog, by the way.
Massive underdog.
I know I'm a B-side, and I know I'm meant to get beaten. And how much you think you're going to win a fight, you know your place. And we all thought I thought he was going to get beat as well. It was I remember someone said, "Oh, yeah, Sean McComb's on the fight." I thought it's a hard night for him. Babu's strong, and it hasn't looked great in a lot of fights actually. But
looked good last time out.
Yeah, but he finds a way to win. I just thought it was the wrong fight for McComb, and he boxed brilliantly. Yeah, total robbery, really was. And they won't get the press because they're not big enough names for people to care about.
Everything what happened afterwards with Ryan Garcia obviously has taken all of the headlines. But
he deserves a rematch.
Yeah, I mean, Barboza. I mean, that's. You say he won 2 rounds, 2 or 3 rounds, but the rounds that he won, he nicked. They were very close. He didn't win any rounds convincingly, whereas McComb really dominated some of the rounds that he clearly didn't get on the card.
He was still winning 3s and 4s and all that.
Benoit Roussel, who scored the fight 98-92 to McComb, which I thought was a pretty good score. Yeah. I think you can have that, or you can maybe have it 1 round closer, maybe. Which is
I had 98-92.
I had 97-93, but I felt that was generous. So I felt like 98-92 was probably a bit more on the money. And then 96-94 from Tom Schreck for Barboza is a bad card. Don Trella 97-93 for Barboza might be the worst card I've ever seen.
That's a preconceived idea. We all have it when you do commentary. You have a preconceived idea of what's going to happen. And you could sometimes in commentary you get led along your own path by accident, and even though you might not be scoring the fight to your guy because you think he's going to win. When you see a prospect against a journeyman, you're talking him up, and then obviously you go, oh shit, he's just lost the first 2 rounds. And but you do your thing. You're talking up and all the things he can do in the pattern because you think it's an easy fight for him on paper. So let's just talk about the prospects of his career and what he's done so far as an amateur. And he's like, fucking hell, he's losing the fight here. Very rarely happens. I think that's the thing with the judge. He just thinks, he's going to piss this fight, so he's not really watching it. I think that it shouldn't happen actually, because every fight for a fighter should be treated as if that's the biggest fight of the night. That's what it should be treated, and but it's not always the case. But yeah, that's a crazy card. But he won't get. No one will care about it because if it wasn't the top of the bill, that's the thing. But Sean McComb, that's hard for him because you get so fucking despondent.
I mean, co-main to a show like that. I mean,
That's
how
a
many
career-
chances does any fighter get to do something?
The only
like
good
that?
thing about him, there was loads of booing.
Yeah.
He's
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
He is in New York, man. There's more like there's Irish people everywhere. I mean, New York's a good place to go, but I mean, he is the B side, and no one expected him to win or knew who he was. That's the truth. So hopefully, people saw it enough to go. He deserves to see him again, and you want to see it again. So he boxed beautiful. I mean, he boxed so well. Really did, better than I've ever seen him. I've covered most of his career, and he showed some real good stuff. But against that was a level up, and he was just punch perfect. The footwork was fantastic. The shot selection was good. He was busy. He was rolling the shots. When he put himself on the ropes, and he put himself on the ropes more than got pushed onto the ropes. He never stayed a stationary target. He was slipping and dipping and bobbing and weaving. He's like the Irish Willie Pep.
He was fantastic.
He was good. He was really good. He boxed really well, and he pissed that fight. And so it was just a mad scorecard. The maddest one we've had so far this year.
Yeah, and that's saying something. Okay, right. We're going to round things off with going to Andy for York Hall on Saturday night, and the return of Sam Noakes. Had knocked out every single one of his opponents before he came up against the immovable object from France, Yvonne Mendy. Even at 38 years of age, Andy, that is one tough Frenchman.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's brilliant for Noakes to win the European title, obviously, because Mendy, I thought, did represent a degree of jeopardy, although he is obviously nearly 40, but just because of what he's done in his career, and because he would have been confident that he could, as we always say, take Noakes to a place he's never been before and all that kind of stuff. And there are still things you don't know about someone who hasn't had to fight over the championship distance against somebody like him. But as it turned out, he was too young, he was too fresh, he was too...
He surely could box, could he?
Yeah.
At a good pace as well.
Exactly. And it was kind of the perfect fight for him as it turned out, and they would have been confident of that going into it. And it's just really fascinating, I think, to see what's happened with Chamberlain and Noakes over the last few months, because I'm not sure it's possible to do a better job for two fighters in the same division that Queensberry have done with those two, because one has won the British and the European, winning titles both times that Gavin Gwynn has moved on from, whilst the other one hasn't had the opportunity to do that, but what they have been able to do is box Gavin Gwynn in Saudi Arabia, if you're Chamberlain, and get the win. So you announce yourself as being at least a European level fighter because you've beaten somebody who's won that title, and you got to box on a massive stage. So in terms of getting two fighters running in parallel lines, I don't think it's possible to do it any better than they've done it.
I thought he was really boxed really well. I think actually what you saw with him and Chamberlain is that they're better than what you think they are.
Yeah,
actually I think they, like, Chamberlain showed how he always finds the space to throw his shots, but I think Noakes showed better footwork, good movement. I think the thing, my worry about Sam Noakes is, I think he's not the hardest target to find. You find that with people who are physically strong, which he is, and the way he punches, because he punches, he's not so much fluent, he's solid with every shot, and he returns into every shot more with weight than snap. So he is going to be a bit square at times and get caught. But he showed good head movement, I thought, at times, against a guy who's, I think, Mendy's sort of threat. Actually, I don't think he's ever going to be world. This is his level, but I still think he's good at this level. I still think he beats fighters and some kids coming up. Good timing maybe, but I thought he showed the discipline, and when he couldn't get him out of there, he didn't panic. Just still tried to whack him with good shots, landed with some lovely shots. I think he has power. He threw an uppercut and he knocked Mendy off balance.
He caught it on the glove. But
he still knocked him off balance, didn't he? Because the way he punches, because he's a strong puncher rather than a whipping shot puncher, you get all the weight of his body through every punch that he throws. It was good. I thought he boxed really well. I think I like the way they go to York Hall, Queensberry now and TNT. They might get some work off him. That's a great company to work for, apparently. No, I mean, but I like that because they're not. They got a group of fighters here who can't sell arenas. This is your criticism, no? But I mean, they can't sell, so they don't put him in an arena. Why waste the time? Put him in a York Hall. It wasn't packed, but it makes a better atmosphere, doesn't it? And for the fighters, could you perform better then? Even I'm on about the undercard fighters as well. We've seen some good results on that card there from a lot of good fighters. We've seen a lot of good things from a lot of good fighters on Saturday night on that card. Just because the atmosphere is good, it makes you, rather than boxing a 20,000 seat arena, but there's only 5,000 in there and it's empty, or less sometimes when you're early on the card. Then you don't. It's like boxing in your own gym.
Yeah.
So you got to get a crowd on you. It makes you, it lifts you like everything. We're all talking obvious stuff here. It lifts you, but you get a little bit more for that. It doesn't have to be in a big arena. The York is a great place for most boxing, I would say, at most levels, because people don't sell thousands of tickets. When obviously you got a Nathan Haney, then a guy he can box in a bigger place because he literally sells thousands on his own back. But most don't. So I think it was a really good night of boxing. I thought, because it was the right arena, it was the right venue for the right fighters, and I thought Sam Noakes topped the bill, and I thought he showed discipline, same power, just to the guy knows how to ride the shot and cover it well, but he showed a better boxing IQ than I thought he had, which is a good positive going forward for him.
And 12 rounds at a decent clip as well.
Yeah.
Mendy didn't throw a lot of shots, but he was there and he made Noakes work a lot.
Once he felt the power of Noakes, he's going, I'm not throwing so many shots against this lunatic, because the gaps will appear. Yeah.
Before we wrap things up, Andy, come to you first. Mark Chamberlain or Sam Noakes? Who wins?
I think Chamberlain.
Barry?
What's that? Well, I might be working that fight, so I can't really talk about it. See, Chamberlain looks the more vulnerable, but he also, oh God,
I'm not really sure why I think Chamberlain, to be honest with you, but yeah.
Going off their last two performances, I always thought Noakes, but I didn't always though. I would edge towards Noakes if I had to, because it just seemed Chamberlain looks more susceptible to getting caught.
Yeah, he definitely does.
I can say the word, but I think the way he creates the space to land shots, Chamberlain, I fancy him. Like the way he boxed against Gavin Gwynn.
Interesting.
We've
asked that a few times on here over the last few years, really. So it'd be interesting to see if we can go back and see which ones that we've changed our minds over. But it is a great fight.
You're talking about running parallel. You've asked that question because they've been at the same level at the same time continuously. No one hasn't jumped too high, is it? Before the other one's followed it straight away in the next fight, pretty much.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, obviously Chamberlain boxing Gavin Gwynn was the biggest step up, and then
but obviously he boxed the European champion. That should have been for the European title.
And then you got someone like Yvonne Mendy, who's 2-time European champion, 3-time European champion. He's boxed for it loads of times.
And good enough still to be a European.
Yeah, and also makes you look at him like, and obviously we've even still in this country, even for free losers like us, we've only seen him box, not
3 losers,
not as often.
Lost one fight, you prick. You've lost one. You will lose another one in a minute.
We've all. I don't remember what I was going to say now. I knew Barry's going to interject. What was I going to say?
There's 3 losers here.
Yeah,
we've all.
I can't remember.
Talking about Mendy.
That was it, yeah. So we've not, because we've not seen an awful lot of Yvonne Mendy, and it kind of makes you think, like, watching him at the weekend, you think, like, 10, 15 years ago, you must have been a real fucking horrible guy to box. Like, when obviously wasn't quite, it was 9 years ago when he boxed Campbell. You think like 9, 10, 11 years ago, you would have been an absolute handful. Imagine that, like Mendy of 10 years ago against Sam Noakes at the weekend would have been a brilliant.
But France has always been a real hotbed for European level, like never really world level. I mean, they've had world champions, but at that European level, they've always been a real strong nation where like you never had an easy fight against a Frenchman ever, whether it be French Algerian or French somebody. They're based in France. And they'd always be tough and hard, and like you think, oh yeah, pick him up. His record's not great because he lost about 4 fights, because he's boxing the same people as him, real tough, hard men. And like so, they're gonna win or lose a few fights, but they come over here, you think they're gonna be an easy pickings, and people get sparked out, or they go to France and they get totally schooled and things like that. It was really difficult, and they had like Mendy's in that sort of ilk where he's like, his record. You look at his record, you can go, he's a beatable fighter. But you've got to be good to beat him, and you've got to be disciplined to beat him. Every one of those, and I think that's what Noakes showed, real good discipline.
Very much so. Right, okay, that's all we have time for today on our Ryan Garcia versus Devin Haney review. Still doesn't quite believe it's real, 36 or so hours on from the event. But thanks very much for joining us today. Don't forget, you can catch up with all of the latest boxing content on Boxing News and the Boxing News app. But from me, Rob Tubbett, from Barry Jones and Andy Clark, we'll see you next time.
Yeah.